did better. Groups with more people with higher social intelligence did better. Groups with higher IQ did not do better. Groups with more women did better, probably because women have higher social intelligence. But here's an example where what the people are doing, rather than making logical arguments, which is what you would think about this group, what they're doing is making suggestions and considering them. What about this? What about this? Oh yeah. It's a search process. It's not a deduction process. So what does this matter in the real world? Okay, so we went into a call center. We've done this with some 20 different organizations now. Let's take the call center because call centers are so highly managed. And in this call center, we looked at 4 different groups. So we put the badges on them, and we watched them for 6 weeks. And we found out an interesting thing. We found out the people that had better communication patterns had shorter handling times. That translates into the people with better communication patterns made more money for the company. Better communications pattern in this means just like the last slide. The people they talked to each other. They all were highly interactive. So said our badges. But the thing that was interesting, of course, is call centers are managed to suppress that. You don't want employees gossiping with each other, right? So you give them coffee breaks at separate times. The only place they get to actually talk is in meetings. And I said, well, no, how about if we just give them a coffee break all at the same time? You've got 100 groups doing the same thing. Customers won't notice it at all, won't cost you anything. But you give them a chance to chatter with each other. And we did that, and it saved them $15 million a year, 0 cost. So what were they doing? They were trading ideas with each other. Now, some of them were about what to bet on the football pool, but some of them are what to do when the boss was crazy, or what to do when, the new ad campaign was as stupid as you couldn't believe it. Yeah. Or there's all this tacit information, stuff you can't even write down because it's on PC, right? But people gossip about it, and that gossip helps them do better. Again, different way of thinking about things. So you said, well, okay, call centers, great. Lab tests, great. So we badged up teams in research labs, 3 different research labs, and we looked at their pattern of communication and their activity during the day. And we used what are sort of state-of-the-art tools for assessing whether that was a high creative day or not. Now, I'm not a sociologist. I don't buy into all of those tools so much, but let's imagine that these are actually work that you can judge creative output objectively. Okay? They think that you can. But what we found is the pattern of communication could predict whether you had a high creative day or not with just under 90% accuracy. And the pattern was very simple. The pattern is, do the people you talk to all talk to each other? That's one pattern. And then did you change and then do that with other groups that you don't normally spend time with? That's the simple pattern. So you're harvesting ideas from the other groups, and you're bringing back, just like in that science paper, and exchanging ideas with everybody. It's not argument, it's not logic, it's not strategy. It's just harvesting ideas, it's like bees. Bees and harvesting pollen. So, all the different organizations we've surveyed, created this sort of data, we find that these patterns, these very simple patterns, account for between 40 and 60% of the variation. Lunchtime, remind me, don't get in their way. 40 to 60% of the variance between low-performing groups and high-performing groups. How you say it, who you say it to, your pattern of communication matter as much as what you say. Now, yeah, a little asterisk. People tend not to say really stupid things, so it's sort of a ceiling effect there. But you probably don't pay attention to it. For instance, no organization I'm aware of actually measures the pattern of voice and face-to-face communication. But yet that's why you guys are here, is because you can pick up additional nuances, you get serendipitous communication on the way to lunch, and so on and so forth. So, that's in organizations. Let's do big data outside of organizations. World full of data. What we do is we tend to focus on mobile communications because people sensor packages on them, so you can know where they are, you can know who they call, you can use Bluetooth on the phone to figure out who else is around, so proximity. You can get into their Facebook account and figure out who they claim to be friends with. You can know what places they went. So there's little sensor packages that you all carry around, and incidentally, there are 5 billion of them out there. So you can do this for almost everybody. And of course, people are beginning to do this. They don't want to admit it, but they are. And this is like our little badges. So the question is if I could predict that much of performance and even creative output inside organizations, can I do that outside with just regular folks out in the wild? And the answer is yes. So once again, it's not arguments and things that seem to matter. So for instance, we gave cell phones, not cell phones that were bundled with this software, to an entire living group, and we watched them for a year while they went through an election cycle, and we weighed them and whether they gained weight, and we asked them all sorts of questions about, their political attitudes, and who were they friends with, and who did they discuss politics with, what did they eat, and so on and so forth. And what we found was that your friends, the decisions they made, whether they ate the extra pizza, whether they gained weight, whether they voted for Obama, did not predict your decisions, not statistically correlated. So you've been hearing a lot about how your friends make you fat? Not true. The reason it's not true is because in the study that you've been hearing about, the sampling that they used was very strongly biased. So there probably is some little effect there, but the much bigger effect, I'll get to in just a second, it's not your friends that make you fat. In the case of politics, it's not the people you talk politics with that decide your political opinions. The way they vote is not correlated with the way you vote in our study. And we've repeated this since. What is very strongly correlated with your decisions is your exposure to other things. If you're with a group of people, if you hang out with a group of people that take the third slice of pizza, you take the third slice of pizza. If everybody in your group smokes, you're likely to smoke. If everyone stops smoking, you're likely to stop smoking. It's not arguments, right? So, in England, they put, this will kill you on cigarette packs, right? Pretty good argument. Smoking went up, not down. But when people stopped smoking because they had to stand outside in this country, or when the restaurants banned it, people stopped smoking. It was this exposure that predicts 75 to 85% of the events. Huge percentage. So social influence seems to be the thing that dominates our decision making. So through all the channels, through Facebook, through email, through face-to-face, through physical proximity, through example, it's all this exposure ideas, copying from other people seems to do things. And interestingly, the mathematics of it look just like the mathematics of our immune system. Our immune system reacts to foreign bodies by multiplying certain types of cells. And it has this network effect, just like the value of the network goes up as a square, the number of people who are doing things. Social influence has the same type of effect. So the same equations describe it. I'm not going to bore you with it. But what that does is it explains many interesting phenomena. So for instance, if you want to ask things like what will people buy? So this is an example of another community. We instrumented the community with what they bought, what they ate, what they weighed, where they went, who they thought. We tried to get a whole fMRI of this community. They got paid, human subjects approval, don't worry about the people. And you can do things like predict what app will you download next. And if you take just the random statistics of which apps are most popular, you can actually do a sort of halfway job. If you use all of their Facebook data and everything we know about them, age, gender, demographics, you do slightly worse. If you use who they claim to be friends with on Facebook and so forth, you do just a tiny bit better. So if your friends are beginning to download this app, that matters a little bit, okay? But much more is if you spend time with people who involve